And we're live. Backstage, we have our very first guest. But introduce myself if you can't read. I am Dave from DNA Reptilia, and we have
Joe from Parselton Reptiles.
over in the UK. He's
Over in
6
the
hours
UK.
ahead.
Can't forget that. Yeah. Have we
And
got a green room for our special guests? Have we got you need to build a green room?
well, I can see him on my screen that he actually did join in as I clicked on go live. So he did jump in. He is in the background right now, to what I can see. But I will bring him in. He is Robert Gough from Gough Exotics. How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Not too
Awesome.
bad, mate.
So I talked to you a little bit yesterday, but you didn't meet Joe yesterday. But as you can see, yeah, I'm actually, yeah, I can actually point to him. Yeah, he's that way on my screen.
Yeah.
So so tell us a little bit about yourself, Robert. What do you do? How long you been doing it? And what are your plans for future?
Well, for starters, thanks for having me on. I have been a photographer for 8 years now. I primarily specialize in landscape and wildlife photography, and had the opportunity to do some buildings and architecture photography for some different businesses, and actually for the university that I go to, we've had some published work through them. Right now I'm an EMT and I'm going through paramedic school.
Nice.
I've been breeding snakes. I guess I haven't been breeding yet. Just been collecting plans for the last 2 years and getting stuff ready to go. Have a male coming in that will go to actually a pretty good portion of the females that I have right now. Hopefully I'll be able to get the clutches down and ready to rock before the season ends. So we'll see how it goes.
Sounds like you've got discipline if you plan. I literally just went full steam ahead and brought as many snakes as I could find.
Oh, jeez.
Put them together. I've got plans now, but
I've had the problem of indecision.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think a lot of us had that issue of indecision. It's like a common mistake that everybody makes at the beginning is, oh, gotta get. Then by the time you figure out what you want, you already have like 10 snakes, and then you gotta slow down and be extremely picky.
Yeah.
It's like, granted, yeah, this year I think I bought in 2 or 3 only so far, so, and I gotta slow down too because, well, depends on how much room hatchlings take up. So
I know that's the thing. You can never, like with the geckos, you've got an idea. Okay, if they're 2 years old, I'm going to get roughly 8 eggs.
Oh, really? Okay.
With snakes, it's anywhere between like 4 and 14 in it, so you can't really plan.
Right. Well, you can kind of guess for your first-time females. It's really hard to guess. It's anywhere between 4 and 6 is, I think, the average for first-time females. Granted, I had a female lay 7 last year, but only 2 were viable for a first-time female. But I think average is between 4 and 6, and sometimes it goes up 1 additional egg each year.
Oh, really?
My guess, I had a female for a short time that was supposedly a 10 egg layer, and then I had to rehome that one because after going through some serious thoughts, it just wasn't fitting the plans.
Yeah.
I think with reptiles, we also go along with that with photographers too. It's like, okay, I got to get this, got to get that, to make better photography, but yet you don't know what you're doing quite yet. As you want to take better photos, you try to get the better equipment, hoping that it's going to help you take better photos, but in turn, it actually doesn't.
In the US, do you have anywhere? One of the main problems I have, I want to buy more kit for my camera, so there's a couple of lenses that I've got my eye on, and most of it will help me with the snakes, but some of it helps me with, like, I like doing the astrophotography from time to time, so I wanted like a wide angle lens. But there's nowhere in the UK where you can like go and try out a lens, like,
or a rental company.
Well, yeah, like it'd be awesome if you could rent a lens for a couple of days, see which one you like, and then buy that one.
Yeah, there's several companies that allows you to rent stuff for usually pretty cheap, comparative to buying a brand new lens. That's what I've done, and my mentors have done. They always rent stuff before so they can try it out before dumping thousands of dollars into kit that they may or may not like. So
yeah. So what's your camera setup then, Rob? What camera are you using at the minute?
Right now I am using a Canon.
Yeah.
So
look at his face.
Yeah. So I'm using a Canon right now. It's a DSLR. I started off with the Rebel line just because they're a lot cheaper, and you don't have to worry about really getting the skills down before moving on. So
that was my first camera.
Yeah, I personally recommend to everyone to get a cheap one and learn how to use it versus just dumping money, because the primary thing that I see with photographers and what my mentors have taught me since day one is people buy cameras, and if they can afford good cameras, they see the quality through the camera, not through their actual photography.
Right.
So when something new comes out that's better, their photography doesn't get better because they're dependent on the gear versus their physical skill as a photographer.
Yeah.
And I've had a cheapo camera until recently because I can take really good pictures on not very good cameras because I took the time and effort to learn how to do things and go through that trial and error. And as Dave just brought up, my portfolio website, which I've been kind of going through and updating once I get pictures. I try to keep some of my older pictures on there, and I try to include some of my newer stuff. But as you see this bird flying across the pier right there, like I'm now at the point where I need better stuff so I can get those shots that I'm looking for, because the gear that I have just can't handle certain shutter speeds or ISO settings, or the focal points aren't where they need to be, or the autofocus is too slow, or the manual focus.
Then you don't want Panasonic with autofocus.
Right. So it's just a compounding thing where you just have to continue to learn. And I mean, for those of you guys that are starting out and you don't know where to start, go on YouTube. There's tons and tons and tons of videos explaining what to do and how to fill a frame, and
the rule of thirds.
And getting those good images, and being able to change your settings correctly and quickly when you need to, and knowing when to take picture and what angle of light and what angle your camera needs to be with that angle of light.
So this is something that it really does my head in. I spoke to you about this before as well. When you go on,
no pictures of snakes. What the?
Yeah.
When you go on Morph Market and you see some people have some of the nicest snakes in the country, and their pictures are terrible.
Absolutely.
But you ask them, like, why do you not just buy like a cheapo camera and take better pictures? There's plenty of stuff on YouTube that you can follow, and all the time, every single response that I get is the same one, that a DSLR camera changes the color of the snake, and it doesn't give a true representation of what the snake is or what they're trying to sell. Do you agree with that?
I don't.
I 100% disagree with that, because if you are using your camera how it's meant to be used and are utilizing natural light and artificial filler light and using certain angles and working with the animal, then you should be able to capture the animal just fine and have minimal editing. And even if you need to edit the photo a little bit, like one of my big pet peeves is, especially on people on Instagram, like their solution to editing is just increase the contrast and blow up the saturation so it looks like a completely different animal. Whereas instead of trying to do a naturalistic thing by going with color matching gradients and learning how to use your editing programs and trying to take better pictures that don't need to be edited as much in the first place, is where I think a lot of people struggle, because they are like, oh, I have this $3,000 camera, it should take perfect pictures and I don't need to edit them at all. But if your settings aren't correct for the shot, or your lighting's not correct, or the subject moves just a little bit and it's a little blurry, like you'll have to edit that out whether you want to or not. And
we were saying this, weren't we? Because the type of shots that we like to do is the reflection shots. The editing that we tend to do isn't necessarily on the animals themselves, but you find yourself painstakingly trying to edit out particles of dust for hours and hours. And
90% of my edits is mainly on the reflection. It's like removing the imperfections, the dust, the possible scratches. It's like I very, very rarely touch much on the actual animal itself. It's more or less on the reflection that I've done. But if anything, on my photos, most of the adjustments are sharpening, because a lot of, I don't know if it's the camera, but I know I have heard it in some other podcasts that a lot of the cameras nowadays do automatically soften your images.
I know for a fact that camera phones do that all the time, every picture.
Oh yeah, on camera phones, yeah, definitely.
That's the other advantage of having a proper mirrorless or a DSLR.
If I went to a full frame lens with an adapter on my Micro Four Thirds, to my understanding, it would come out even sharper, because the full frame. Oh, what was the excuse?
The crop factor.
Yeah, it's the full frame lens is made for a full frame sensor, but if you put it on a crop sensor, it comes out even more sharp. Like if you did a full frame lens on a APS-C camera, which doesn't have as much of a crop factor as a Micro Four Thirds, but you'll still get that extra crispness. From the biggest, sharpest lens out there is the 18-35 Sigma. Everybody brags about, and I was debating on getting, when I upgraded my lens for my camera up to the Nocticron, I was debating between a Sigma with a speed booster or getting a Nocticron. the biggest thing that I weighed myself on was going with a lens that fit the camera. That was the same brand. That was or what is it? What's that word? Not natural, but basically the same brand as the camera.
Native.
Native lens, so I could actually keep the speed of the focus. And Panasonics are not known for having the fastest autofocus. So if I were to put a speed booster on to adapt the Sigma lens, I would actually slow down the camera, as in the autofocus. Autofocus would still work, but it would be slower.
You'd be winding your camera up soon, won't you, with like a key on the back? So how you start
Eventually,
car.
yeah. I know my camera's old, but I can still take good photos.
It's not that it's old, it's just
Yeah. I was telling Robert yesterday
it's old.
about this guy. This is that bridge camera.
How are you getting on with it? Mate.
I haven't taken a whole lot of photos. I've only taken a couple photos with it, and they turned out really good. Then the following week, I had to take. I think that was when I went to the Reptile show, and I took some on-location photos. I was using a regular on-camera flash I would normally sit on top. I took that off, and I was using that with my 42 millimeter lens, which acts as a 45. And I decided that I brought the wrong lens because I was a mile away from my subject trying to get in the flash right next to him, and I couldn't do it. So I did all right on some of them. But it's not always, yeah, like you were saying, Joe, it's not always the gear. It's how you use it. And if you find what you want to use it for is you're finding limitations.
Yeah.
That's when you start looking for better gear. Once you know what you can change right away, and make things better, that's when you can progress and go into different gear if the new gear is going to give you that extra little bit. It's like with flashes. When I was looking for flashes, I wanted to go I wanted to have another wireless flash, and I was debating between the 8400 watt flash or the 8600 watt flash, both pro. And to what I heard, which made complete sense, you only get like a third stop or a half stop extra light output on the 600 compared to the 400.
Yeah, it's fine margins for the price difference. Is it worth it? Yeah.
Right. It wasn't worth it to me, so I went with the 8400, and you just upgraded, Joe, to a 400, a plug-in version, but still a 400.
Yeah, I got the SK 400. I love it. It's brighter than the sun, so
Oh yeah,
you have to move everything back a bit more now.
what do you mean back a bit? You're moving the flash farther back?
Yeah, so I'm doing it in my dining room.
Mm.
I did start doing it in my lizard room, but it's a small room. But when I've got it on the lowest setting, so 1/16th, it's still overexposing everything.
Oh, is it? What?
Yeah, and something that really scared me earlier, because I thought I broke my camera, I put my shutter speed on 1/250th of a second, to try and get it as fast as I could. And there was a black line appearing at the bottom of all my images. I thought, it looks like a shadow. So I moved the light closer, I moved it back, and it was still there. Apparently, yeah. So once I moved it down to 1/200th, it was fine.
What f-stop were you shooting it at?
So I couldn't go low because it was giving off too much light even on the lowest setting. So I think I went to 4.6, and then I moved it all the way to 10.
You had to bring it all the way up to 10?
Yeah, and I was still getting that line. So, but I wasn't using the X Pro sync. I'm just using like a cable sync at the minute. So that might be the reason why, because apparently they can go to faster than 250. I've seen someone on YouTube using it to 1,000, and it was still working fine.
Oh, high speed sync.
Yeah.
Yeah. your trigger that you have now probably is not capable of high speed sync.
No, but the X Pro isn't it? So if I just
Yes.
bought that, it should let me go a bit higher.
Don't need a modeling light. There. How low? With the 400 Pro, I can go to 1/256. I just put the battery in it. This thing's a beast. Let's see. Well, focus in. Yeah, I can go all the way down to 1/256.
Yeah, I can only go to 1/16 from there. That's for flash power, yeah.
Yeah, that's flash power.
Yeah.
I love this thing. It was worth. I mean, now I have the 8400 and the 200. I don't have the Pro for the 200, but that's fine. I got that one off of eBay.
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking for gear and you don't have the budget, you try to find the best deal you can. Don't ever be in a hurry, but used gear is not the worst thing in the world.
Well, this was half price on eBay, brand new. So I picked that up for 100 and something pound with a flash box.
Robert just got disconnected.
Will we boring you, Rob?
No, he just disappeared. He probably got bad connection.
Yeah. But yeah, I was playing around with it today, and I went down all the way to 1/1, and I thought I'd Men in Black to myself, erase my own memory.
Oh Jesus! Oh, he's going back. I think. There he is. You got bumped off the Wi-Fi? The parents knock you out or something, or what?
No, I was getting a phone call.
Oh.
And my phone was like, "Nah, you got to take this phone call." I was like, "Oh no." So,
it's
but we're back.
Yes. What do you use, Robert, for flash power when you take reptile photography? Do you think the flash is more important than natural light, or do you try to do more natural light over flash?
I try not to use flash. I use natural light and filler light, and just change my exposure settings, and just make sure my white balance is where it needs to be. Because I think flash is similar to getting gear that you think you need but don't necessarily need. Like, if you know how to use flash correctly, then it's a great tool. But if you don't, then you're going to just smudge your photos and basically waste a couple grand getting a good light setup going. If you just got a few good LEDs for close-up shots, because I mean, we're taking pictures of reptiles, and they're in a relatively small space compared to where you're shooting, and you don't need a gigantic setup to take really close-up shots versus, say, further away from the subject, just because since they're in such a small space and they're not very large animals most of the time, you can get really close to the subject. You can get really close to the subject and utilize light bounce and reflecting more efficiently, in my opinion, than a flash, because flashes can get away from you really quickly, as I'm sure Joe can agree with.
Yeah. It's like here, though, you don't really have a choice, especially in the UK. Like, natural light just doesn't exist until probably June, and then the end of July, that's gone. So you're in a small room. It's quite dark. So I don't know, like, the best way to go, but without a flash, I'd be screwed.
Well, he was also talking about constant lighting also, right, Robert?
But constant lighting is just a continuous flash, though, isn't it? Really, like I know it's a softer light, but
it's I feel it's harder to it's like if you're trying to capture that tongue flick, it's harder to capture that with constant lighting compared to flash. But that's just like I said, it's just one of those things where you can capture it with constant lighting, but to get it stopped, you almost need that extra oomph that the flash gives you to give that stopping power. So that's where you got to decide what you want to spend your money on. No, we're all in different.
This is what I was saying to you. I breed not just snakes, I breed geckos as well, and a large percentage of my geckos are albino. I was telling you about this, weren't I? Before I bought the flash, I was using constant lighting. The albinos, they are averse to light in any form. Even if you get them out during the day, they'll constantly have their eyes closed. They won't move. It's almost as if they're in agony seeing light.
I remember that, yeah.
But when you can take a photo in a pitch black room, their eyes are open, they're alert, they're walking around. It's so easy just to have a split second light where they were like, oh, was that a light? Nah, well, I'll carry on walking around. But with constant lighting, you can't do that with albino geckos. So it makes certain situations a flash is 100% better than a constant light.
It's like there's advantages and disadvantages of all different types of light.
Yeah.
Constant light is more budget friendly. And if you're photographing animals that don't like to move much, it works great.
Yeah.
If you're like for morph market images, for selling images, you don't need to want to capture the motion. You don't want to have to stop it. You can put an animal in a light box. I know some photographers don't like light boxes because some you have to actually shoot the light through the sides in order to get it to light the animal, but there is some that have the lights inside the actual light box, and then you don't have to turn the lights up as high, but you still need decent camera settings in order to take those photographs. My daughter has been using the small light box that we have because she's using her phone. She's using her iPhone 11.
Why are you allowing this?
Why did I mention it?
Take it down, you get a camera.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Give her your bridge camera.
I know. I want
using a phone.
For her, it's easier, but she needs to learn the camera too. She needs to have the drive to learn the camera.
Kids these days don't know the born, mate.
Oh, I can take just as good a picture on my phone.
It's not about easy.
Yeah, it's about what's right.
Right. Have you guys seen this out yet by Wonderland Reptiles?
No. Are you just plugging calendars because you're in the other one?
No, and this is the one that I'm in.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah, this is actually the one that I'm in.
Okay.
That 3 of our photos are in. We're actually into March with those 3 photos. And there we go.
Oh, nice.
But every sale, I got this one for free because I actually won a month. Every sale of this calendar, $5 goes towards US Arc.
Oh, is it? Who's selling
it? Wonderland Reptiles on Instagram.
Oh.
I was gonna plug it last time because I had it for a month now, and I forgot.
Is it half price now? We're halfway through the year.
No, it actually got started in May. It goes May to May.
Oh, okay.
She got a late start on it, so they wanted to hurry up and get them out, so they got them out in May. It was I think a late thought. So, and it goes May through April. So it's not so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a Brittany Gobble calendar of Kaboka snakes, but there's still a lot of good freaking snakes in there.
I'd love to know what Brittany's setup is. I bet she uses like a 2 megapixel, like.
Oh yeah.
She'll use something really random, won't she?
Yeah. No, she uses a Nikon.
Oh, oh, really?
Yeah. Nikon with a Sigma 35
Yeah.
mil, I think is her go-to. I asked her one time. That was one of my how I did a little research on what lens that some photographers actually use. And when she said a Sigma 35, I'm like, well, I was thinking about the 18 to 35, and yeah, I was in debate. But once I saw a video on autofocus, with native lens compared to a speed booster and another capable lens, I'm like, okay, that was it.
Is the
The
Sigma classed as a native lens for the Nikon, or do it because they do specific Nikon threads? Then, yeah, is that what you mean?
Sigma, I do believe makes the mount for a couple different. I think Sony, Nikon, and Canon. Is there another one, Robert, that I might be missing, or have you ever had a Sigma lens?
No, I've used one before, but I tend to stay with native stuff just because um, for the frame and body, it just syncs up a little better in my experience. I mean, third party stuff is fine, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
do a lot more research into seeing what's compatible with what and really know what you're getting and what you're intending to use it for, just because um, say you make the mistake of, I don't know, getting a prime lens or a zoom lens, but you don't know the difference because you're new to photography, or
Mm-hmm.
you you decide I'm going to get an STM lens versus a USM lens because it's $1,000 cheaper, or just varying circumstances that you have to look into when deciding on certain setups, just so you really don't just shoot yourself in the foot, because maybe you get a lens and you didn't realize that you need an adapter for it, so now you just bought a $3,000 lens and you have to buy a $500 adapter so you can use your $3,000 lens. Like
Yeah.
it's just a safer option, but I mean, I've seen some stuff shot with third party products and they're incredible. So
Yeah, a lot
it
of people
really,
do rave about them. Like Sigma Tamron is a name that I've heard quite a lot as well.
Yep. Tamron's another decent one. Yeah, for third party.
Yeah,
That's what I've
I
seen. It's
brought
back and
so
forth.
I brought that £39 Yongno 50mm lens. Like absolute garbage for the price, but when you put it on the camera, it's wicked.
Is it?
Yeah, it goes down to 1.6, £39, and you can't tell the difference between that and a Nifty 50 really, a Canon's own version. But once they do other lenses, and once you start looking at other lenses, it's massively different. But it seems that little 50mm is good.
Seems like a
You
lot
can,
of companies got the 50 millimeter range almost down
yeah,
pat.
you can hear it like auto focusing, like it
Oh,
creeps around like someone turning
yeah.
the steering wheel, but it's all right.
Not very good for video, but good. It's
Oh no,
perfectly fine for photographs.
yeah, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, sometimes it's nicer to buy. If you do have, it'd be nice if you could rent something like what you're trying to do, Joe. There's no rental companies over there, huh?
I might just be ignorant to them. There probably is if you're saying that they're over there, but I really need to find one. There used to be a good camera company called Jessup's, and that I don't know if that's still going or not, but they used to do stuff like you could go in and actually put the lens on your own camera and take photos of stuff in the shop.
Mm.
So at least then you could try it, but I don't know if you could like take them home for a weekend, or you should be able to if someone's deciding whether to choose between one or the other. And like you said, Rob, it's like $3,000 there to choose. Why not just spend the $50 or whatever it is to have it for a day or so?
Right. I was lucky enough to get my Nightcron for half the retail value. That's what I was trying to say about eBay. I got lucky. Half the stuff that was with the lens was still brand new in the box, and they said that they took really good care of the lens and everything like that. When I got the lens, I'm like, yeah, you did. I'm like, holy crap. I was very lucky. I got a $1,400 lens for $750 shipped.
Yeah. Well, this has come up so many times. Like I was telling you when I was choosing between the macro lens, I didn't know whether to go for the 60mm or the 100mm, the Canon one, because my camera is only a VAPS-C sensor camera, so a 60mm almost acts like a 100mm anyway, and the difference was like 150 quid. But had I got the 100mm, that would have turned it into what,
120, 125, something like that.
That would have been too much. But I don't know if it would have been too much.
Depends on where your focal point is, though.
Yeah.
What's your closest focal distance to the lens? And that's different on every lens, too.
I know. On every camera. So, yeah, it would have been handy just to rent both and then do a couple of shots.
Yeah, figure out which one works better for you.
And then, like at the minute, I want to do some star stuff because it's getting to that time of year where it's not cloud anymore. I want to get a 35mm, or I might even want to get a 22mm. But that might help with you have to stand a bit further back if it's going to be a prime lens, but you can just take the picture and then edit that later on in Lightroom, can't you? You can crop it in, get rid of anything you don't need. So, I don't know.
How much Lightroom do you do, Robert? Do you do any Lightroom or Photoshop to summer photography, or you try to just nail it right out of the camera?
I strive to nail it right out of the camera, because I think as a photographer, the goal is to make the best that you can make, and that doesn't always happen. And even if I think it's good as is, I'll still go in and touch stuff up. Like maybe I want the contrast edited a little bit, or maybe I didn't see something while shooting that is in the way of the shot, or maybe the exposure is off a little bit. So, which happens.
Do you use Lightroom or Photoshop then, Rob?
I prefer Lightroom a lot more over Photoshop.
He uses Canon. He uses Lightroom. There we go. It's 2 against 1.
I'm sorry.
Photoshop is just so unnecessarily complex for taking still shots, and I mean,
I just use the raw
some things
editor
that you have to use Photoshop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does have its advantages, especially when you need to move things out of a photo altogether. Photoshop's better, but Lightroom for touching things up, it's just easy.
Every program has its other advantages. The advantage of Lightroom, though, it can make your your folder setup. You can set up new folders that with import and everything like that. You could also use Illustrator for not Illustrator, Lightroom for. You can link your camera up to your computer and actually use it as a capture device. So taking the photo, it's automatically on your computer right up on your screen right away. Instead of seeing it on your little 3.5-inch screen, you can actually link it up to your computer through.
Did not know that.
Illustrator or Lightroom. It doesn't work as good as some.
Can you do it through the iPad?
That, if you had a wireless capability with your camera and you had a Canon app, I think you could. I know I can with the Panasonic. There is a Panasonic app. I can actually control my camera with the app. I can have like a phone with me, and I can have my camera set out to the side. If I want to take like a self-portrait, I can have the app on my phone, and I can tap the screen to autofocus on wherever I am or whatnot, and I can change the ISO, anything that I can electronically change on the back of the camera.
Yeah.
Depending on the lens, because there's some lenses that have the aperture setting, aperture ring. Unless you set that to auto, you can't change it on the back of the camera or the dials. You have to change it on the lens.
Yeah.
But whatever I can electronically change on the camera, I can change on the app.
Yeah.
So it's good if I wanted to. I'm going to try it soon with our Lotus. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to bring the 8400, and I'm debating between what strip box to actually take with me.
Bigger
But I
one.
want to do some light painting.
Yeah. See, me and the brother-in-law, we want to go, and we're trying to find like a good place for the Astro stuff, park the cars there, and like light paint the car with the stars in the background. But I'm looking for a gadget that can do light painting. So if you know anything, let me know.
So basically, you just need a portable device just to. Oh, there is. It's long exposures. I know a photographer in my area, in Kakona. I'm going to be doing a class, going to his class next weekend. But he has this LED stick for long exposures. You can actually paint flames in the background with this LED stick, and it just flickers at the right time.
I know there's a few ways that I don't. Rob, you might be the best one because you're the proper photographist. But if is it best to, when you're doing light painting, to do the light painting first, so like the foreground, and then add the background in later on, because you can layer them, can't you? So you can, as long as you don't move your camera, you can take the shot that focuses on the foreground.
Layer masking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really just depends on what style you're wanting, because if you know what you want, say you're doing a shot and you want to imitate like getting beamed up from UFO or something like that, you could light paint during the shot, or you could do it after the subject is out of the shot and just lay them over like you were saying. I mean, it really just depends on personal preference. I prefer doing it natively because I don't like Photoshop enough to spend a couple hours overlaying pictures and making sure they mesh correctly and sewing them together. But if people are into that, then I mean, it's their prerogative. I mean, it takes less time to just shoot it natively and do a couple shots and just edit the shot that comes out versus taking a bunch of different shots and trying to put them together, in my opinion. But I mean, there's no one way, especially when it comes to light painting. I mean, other than that, you have a relatively long exposure time, and
you run through with your little lights.
It'd be relatively dark. Yeah. So, I mean, it really just depends on what you're wanting. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of videos and photos explaining how to do light painting. And I mean, it's just like anything else where you got to filter through the good stuff and the not so good stuff, because one of my mentor's favorite quotes that I like to use a lot, especially when I'm shooting, is there's a massive difference between a photographer and, say, a musician. Because let's say you own a camera, now you're a photographer, but you own a violin, you just own a violin. It doesn't make you a violinist. So that mentality of just because I have it, I am one, is something that people need to move away from, because it's not just a skill that you can go out and spend a lot of money, and now you're an award-winning photographer. You have to put in the time and effort, just like the big breeders around the country and the world. Like, they didn't just go and buy every snake on Morph Market and breed them all and get hundreds of clutches and just become really good, successful breeders. Like, they had to take the time and decades of work in order to know exactly what they were doing and minimize screw ups and all of this other stuff that I think people don't take into account, because they think, oh, it's not that hard. You put two snakes together and one has eggs and now you're a breeder, versus all of the forward thinking that people tend to skim over. So,
like a chess game, you always have to think 2-3 years ahead, don't you?
right. So it's just trying to restrict yourself from going off the wall on a spending spree and being, I'm just going to get all this stuff, and really taking the time and consideration of finding what you like and finding what you don't like, and saying, I can make all of these different things with only a few snakes, versus I have to get 80 different snakes just to make this one snake. So, and I mean, the later you get in, I mean, the easier it is, because I mean, you don't have, it's not like 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago where things were just starting to come out, like the Clown Project and the Pipe Project and all of these other very popular projects, versus now there's snakes that have 5, 6 genetically visual things, like
Pompeii.
Pompeii is a great example. Like you can buy directly into the project now, versus back then where you had to really think about it. And I mean, photography is kind of the same thing. You have to know what you're getting into and what you're going to be doing with your device, because if you don't, then I mean, you're just wasting money at that point, where you could be getting something better suited for you. And like my mentors, what I really enjoy about them is, I mean, they still use stuff that is obsolete because it's what they know, and they create amazing stuff from it.
It's part of their style. And everybody has their own style. If it's something that you like, and if it's turning out the way you like it, don't change because someone else says they don't like it. If you like it, that's your style. Keep going with it. If you eventually start to not like it, then you slowly change. It's not one of these things where you take a photo and you like it and then you keep going with that. Well, after a while you might like, well, let's try a little different, and you might like that step even more. It's, don't be afraid to take more photos to see what your style is, because you never know. Our mentor. Oh, go ahead, Robert.
To add on to what you were saying, I think it's important to know what your style is, and really, in order to do that, you have to learn your camera and take that daunting step of taking it off automatic or a presetting and go on manual. And everyone's afraid of going to a manual setting because it's scary, because if you don't know what you're doing, your photos are going to be terrible, and people are going to know that your photos are terrible.
Right.
Which is why a lot of these people that can afford nice cameras leave them on automatic, because then they don't have to do anything, and it just continues to shoot themselves in the foot. Whereas if you take the time and put in the effort and hold yourself back from making that financial leap then
Right.
I mean, your photos will be exponentially better, like not even comparable. And
Right.
I'm even guilty of doing this a little bit where I like on my Instagram page, I have photos that are absolutely horrendous, but I leave them on there because I use them as a learning tool where I know, you know, these photos didn't come out very well, or I didn't have my camera with me and I wanted a quick picture. So I did the sacrilegious phone picture. And it's just, you can't hate on yourself for learning to improve your photography or even your snake business. You just have to keep going forward and learning, because the more you know, the better it'll end up. And if you continue to improve, then other people will be like, wow, like, I didn't even know you were that good of a photographer, or how do you do this?
When you find that one person that really likes your style, it makes you feel all nice inside. It's like, wow, there's someone else who actually likes what I do, and it makes you feel gushy. I mean, not everyone's gonna make you feel that way, but you know, there will be those people that follow. You know, you can't please everybody. It's like everything. That's why there's so many different car models, because not one person can please everybody. You know, it's like
Right.
I mean, some people like using Panasonic, for example.
Well, yeah. At least I didn't use Olympus. At least I didn't. I wasn't stuck in Olympus. I did videography first. That's what drove me in for the GH5. When the GH5 came out, when I bought it, it was out for only like 9 months, so it was still hot on the
video
track.
on them still rivals the video that you can get on brand new cameras now.
Yeah, the biggest thing is the 4K 60, no time limit on how much to record. You can literally pop out one of the SD cards as it's full, pop in another one, and when the second one gets full, it switches back over. You can continuously record for hours as long as you're on top of the SD card game. But
mine's 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, mate, you cut off. Gone.
Yeah, with GH5, I mean, even the GH5 Mark II, they just released that. It's the GH5 Mark II. I've been seeing it as kind of controversial because the GH6 is supposed to be coming out later on this year.
Yeah.
And there's speculations on that. I like video, but I'm not doing video, really high quality video at this moment. I mean, when I was doing the 4K video, it was doing drift cars. I was literally within 10 feet of the car going around the corner. So I wanted to get the 60 frames per second so I could slow that down. Reason why I was doing it in 4K is because the drone we had was a DJI Inspire 2, which was a 4K camera, which I actually did get the Micro Four Thirds camera at first until I hit a tree and the camera frame broke. But
He's just muted himself.
I just where was I? Oh, that lens actually fits on my camera too. That came with the Micro Four Thirds on the GH5 or on the Inspire 2. I actually have that lens.
After you pulled all the twigs out of it and the leaves, and
the lens was fine. It was just the frame was shot. So, but that's why I have a Panasonic GH5, is because I was using it for that subject. But I did do some photos with it then, but they were all spray and praise.
Yeah.
No, change the setting. Does it look better? The only thing I knew was the shutter speed. Faster shutter speed stops action more.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I knew, because I wanted to get as the car was going around the corner, I wanted the tires to be completely stopped. I didn't want the blur of the wheel.
Yeah.
So busted up the shutter speed. I had no idea what the other things did.
If I had my time again, I'd, as much as I love Canon, and most of the best lenses are Canon, I'd 100% have a Sony A7 III, I think. That'd be a dream camera. It's not overly expensive either. But
Not
my friend's
anymore,
got
it's
one.
not,
No. And some of the photos, literally, I don't know if you've seen How I Met Your Mother, but you know, Barney can never take a bad photo. It's like that. He will not even be looking where he's pointing that camera, and he'll click it, and it's amazing.
What's
I
your
need
dream
one.
camera, Robert? Robert? Oh,
Oh,
you're
I have
thinking.
so many. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're a little choppy on the video, but
Let's see.
What's yours, Dave?
Okay.
I don't know. I actually,
Uh,
I know I asked
I mean,
the question, but I never thought of it myself. Robert, go ahead.
I mean, my ultimate, like, I mean, I love DSLRs still, and like I was telling you yesterday, that I want to get into a mirrorless setup. And one of my mentors is a very lucky guy and has Alpha 7S 3, which is a $3,600 body, and he let me shoot it a few days ago. And like, mirrorless, if you haven't used it before, is amazing. Like, it is so cool, but I mean, it's relatively expensive to get into. I mean, you can get kits for not too much money. Like, you can get a relatively cheap one for a little under $1,500 for a lens and a body. But
well, the camera I got, the M50, that was 650 something pounds. It's an amazing camera. All the youths use it for blogging. Utes.
Oh,
Apparently, it's a good vlogging.
Yes.
I don't know.
yeah, it's small and light, and it has a flip-out screen too. Yes.
Yeah, that is handy, especially when you're outside. But yeah, mirrorless is the way forward.
Yeah.
You use mirrorless as well, don't you, Dave? Your GH.
Oh, the Micro Four Thirds. Yeah, the Micro Four Thirds is a mirrorless camera.
Yeah.
It's a smaller sensor. It takes. I mean, it has a flip-out screen. It's got the dual SD card slots, regular SD cards. You don't take the new high-speed SD cards that are out there. I think some of the new full-frame cameras are taking the new. They have one SD card slot, then they have a new high-speed SD card or something like that. That's out.
Yeah. It's for if one of them fails as well. They basically write both at the same time, don't they?
Right. Depending on your setting that you set up in the camera.
Yeah, you can either have them as both raw or one JPEG, one raw, so if one fail. Yeah.
Right. I think I don't have a dream camera off the top of my head. I'm just patiently waiting what the GH6 will actually have to offer. Because I had a bunch of Micro Four Thirds stuff already. I kind of want to stick with the
Panasonic. GH6 specs to see what the difference was for you, Dave, and it says that
there's very little
autofocus, the autofocus with decibel level when it is focusing is under 100 decibels now. So, it might be good for you to use.
It all depends on the lens that you have for the autofocus. To tell you the truth, my Nocticron, the autofocus is actually audible. And it's a $1,400 lens, but it's not a video lens. It's a photography lens. I know that also because the aperture ring actually has clicks. The video lenses that they made for the GH5 have a smooth aperture, clickless aperture ring.
Yeah.
which is good for videography because you can change your aperture on the fly without any
Yeah.
judders on the screen, no audible, and the autofocus on those lenses are a lot more quiet compared to on your video lenses or your
Well, that was
photograph.
the reason I changed to mirrorless as well. I was telling you, Dave,
See,
weren't I, that the DSLRs, you can, because the mirror goes up and down, you can hear it click. The geckos were being startled by
Right.
it, but with mirrorless, it can be silent if you want it to be. So they don't even know they're being.
but I mean, even with the DSLR, what Dave was talking about, I mean, Canon fixed that problem 23 years ago, 25 years ago. So I mean, it's just personal preference. I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's just some are further behind and some are further ahead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you can't argue with results,
Like
Dave. You're getting good photos.
my very first my very first Canon is a Rebel TXI. It's from like 2003, like crazy old. I still have it, and like even changing settings, like not audible. I mean, the only thing that's really audible is the shutter, and I mean, it's so old that you can't really shoot video with it. But I mean, I don't do video; I do still photos. So
Yeah.
when I look at a camera, I care way more about sensor sensitivity and ISO functionings and how crisp I can get a photo at high ISOs and how many lenses are able to go on that camera, and I mean just typical things that you look for in a camera. But
Yeah.
you just have to know what to look for. And
Brad Clark just asked a question off of YouTube. What do you guys think about the Sony 6600?
Oh, I was looking at one of them. They're the compact things, aren't they? I think they are mirrorless as well. Let me just see if it's the one I'm thinking of.
yeah, they're just a little smaller.
Yeah, they are. That's right. They're not cheap though. Well, it's a Sony Alpha camera in it, so it's not going to be cheap. But
is that the new? That's one of the new ones. Okay.
Are you looking at the 6600 or the 6600M?
I see the A6600 on B&H for body only $1,100 or $1,200.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at on Amazon. But they are good cameras. They're just, I think you can get more for less money.
APS-C, 24 megapixel, 4K 30. Everybody's worried about the 4K capabilities of a camera.
Yeah. I would not get that over the A7 III Mark II. You could probably get a Mark III for that money. A72 or A73. But again, it just depends what you want. That has the viewfinders at the side as well, which is weird.
There's no live view.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have just a heads up. In about 5 minutes, I'm gonna have to sign off here. Oh, that goes through the lens. That's weird. That side view, yeah. Because I gotta bring my oldest daughter to work by 3 o'clock, so we got about 5 minutes. I mean, the camera looks light. Yeah. Go ahead, Robert.
It's in their alpha range. It's just their subframe mirrorless camera. It's kind of in the mid range in their prices for their mirrorless cameras. I mean, what are you doing with it? Are you shooting still photos? Are you doing video? Are you wanting something specific out of this camera? Because depending on what you want will really depend on what camera you're going to need. Like if you're shooting video, then 100% a mirrorless camera. Like not even questionable. You get movie grade 4K recording for ever.
But it's got a micro
especially if you
HDMI.
using
Yeah, but it's only an APS-C sensor as well.
Yeah. Well, I got a micro four thirds, which is even smaller.
Yeah,
yet.
but for
I
that
have
money,
a full HDMI output on mine.
For that money, though, you could get the Sony A7 II, and that's full frame.
For photography, yeah. For photography, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Right. So it's really just what you're wanting to do with the camera. I mean, it's small and light, and if you are wanting a smaller camera, I mean, great.
Like a pocket camera.
If you don't want to lug around right. If you're wanting to not have a full frame camera, I mean, the difference between a full frame mirrorless camera and a full frame DSLR is night and day. Like they're barely even comparable on weight and almost
size.
The entire weight of a full frame mirrorless camera is from the lens. So if you're not too worried about size or weight, I personally like
almost to the point where it looks daft. Do you not think, Rob, when you're trying to fit like a massive zoom lens onto a mirrorless camera now, you look a bit of an idiot.
Right.
Have you seen it?
Right.
Mostly video.
Right.
Brad wants to do mostly video. He replied. He just replied. He said mostly video.
Have you considered the Panasonic GH6?
The 6 ain't out yet. You got the 5 Mark II.
Oh my god.
There's not a lot of cameras out there that can do what the GH5 can do for video.
Yeah.
My 3 questions to you, Brad, is are you brand specific, meaning you're guaranteeing you want a Sony or any other brand? Are you for sure wanting to go mirrorless? And what is your budget? Because I guess 4 questions, and question number 4 would be, what are you taking videos of? Are you just trying to do like a YouTube video where you're just doing vlogging and going around and talking about stuff? Or are you wanting to do like action films and videography or making commercials or something like that, which is what my mentors do. They are one of them is the still photographer and the other one's the videographer, and they make commercials here in New Mexico. So it really just depends on what you're wanting to do. Like Joe was talking about, the Alpha 2 is a pretty equal camera, especially price wise, and you're going to get the benefits of full frame. So you're going to have a much bigger battery. The full frame Sonys have more research in 6 months under $2,000. Yeah. If you don't have anything currently, I would start small and work bigger. A full frame would be a little more expensive at the front end, but in my opinion, you're going to run into less annoyances, like you're going to have a bigger battery compartment. So your camera's not going to die as quickly, and you're going to have more SD card slots, so you're going to not run out of memory as quickly. You're going to have the larger sensor, so you're going to get higher quality with less effort, basically. And
depends on how long of the video you're trying to
doing
too. Video record limits.
Right. And you can mitigate that a little bit if you have a wiring option, which I mean is going to be more money because you're going to have to buy adapters and wiring setups and stuff like that. But
well, his budget is
if you're
$2,000
doing simple video, right? If you're doing close-up videos like what we're doing right now, I would just get. I mean, Sony has mirrorless cameras that, I mean, are under $1,000. Some are $700, $800, and then I would get 25 to 50 milliliter lens and just use that, because now you're probably $1,300 in, and you have an excellent camera to do video, and you're almost half under your budget. So if you're not sure on what you're wanting, I would suggest looking up on YouTube. YouTube's free.
Yes.
And learn from other people's financial mistakes and be like, I don't like this option as well as other options that other bodies have, or vice versa. And look at kind of smaller details, like where things are placed on the camera and that fit with your hand. And are you doing tripoded video on a desk and you're doing a YouTube video, or are you going to be walking around holding this camera for a few hours?
Oh, in camera stabilization.
Yeah.
And in lens stabilization.
Right. So
you're get a camera that has both. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, a gyro's $1,300 for a full framed camera for a good one, but being able to hold your hand steady is free. So having a good, comfortable camera that fits your hand is going to be very important. Plus, I mean, if you're willing to spend a few extra $100 to get a little nicer camera, a little higher on their series line, I mean, then you'll also be able to have those really good photos. Mirrorless, in my opinion, is kind of not cheating, but you can get a much cheaper product and have exponentially better pictures or video for exponentially less money than a DSLR, just because of how much better the sensors are.
And they're continuously to improve when DSLRs kind of leveled off a little bit.
Right.
A lot of companies are pushing
it because manufacturers know. Right, because manufacturers know, like Canon, Nikon, Sony, and others know that DSLRs are on their way out, so they're really pushing this mirrorless technology. And since they're putting so much time and effort into it, it's making it a lot cheaper and more available, which is nice for photographers that are just now starting, because it's not like when I bought my last camera, like I still had lenses from my old Canon, and it was still $5,000 just to get better stuff, because DSLRs are ridiculously expensive, even though before mirrorless cameras really came out. So
I hate to
Brad, I hope this answered your question.
Yeah. In other words, Brad, get the A7 too.
But I gotta end this broadcast because I really gotta fly, and I gotta get my daughter to work, and it's a 10-minute drive. So
yeah, I've got to go to work as well.
So I think thanks, Robert, for being a guest. I know you've done a couple Instagram lives. What's your Instagram handle so everybody knows? I'll put it down in the description afterwards. But what's your handle offhand?
It's Gough Exotics in photo, GOUGHEXOTICSNPHOTO.
All right.
And you'll be able to find me on Instagram, and my website's on my Instagram page.
Yep.
And I have Morph Market, but I don't have anything for sale yet. It's been
I don't think a lot of people have
being a guest for you guys. And
Thanks.
see you later.
Cheers,
Indeed.
mate.
See you, Joe. See you, everybody. Thanks for watching.
later.
And we're not going to have one next month because it's July 4th weekend.
What's July 4th? Oh, we don't have that here, mate.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm like, well, that's
God.
when we won our independence from the UK.
Yeah, well,
So next month we won't actually have one unless we do it 2 weeks later. But we might be skipping next month. So,
okay.
but until then, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for everyone who's rewatching this. But I gotta cut this short. Everybody's gotta go. So until next time, we'll talk to you guys later. Appreciate it.
Bye.
See you later, Joe.